What a lovely winter's day, 7 degrees, maybe even 10, nice and sunny, and a good day for a quick blast on what is a 1000cc V-twin motorcycle. I may sound like I'm bragging a bit there, sorry if I am, I don't mean to be, but as you can imagine, using these new UK licence laws, it's been a long old wait to get to where I am now. Nice push bike, sir, yes! And as someone who has done every single solo motorcycle test in the UK, I feel I'm quite qualified to give you my opinions as to how you should tackle taking your tests. So, let's get on it. Before we get into the nitty or the gritty, or indeed the nitty gritty, here's a background as to what I've gone through to get to where I am today in the motorcycling world. I started riding on the road when I was 16, and I've got to where I am now by doing a variety of tests and evaluations, so we say, because the CBT isn't really a test. And they are, in order: CBT, motorcycle theory test, Module 1 for the A1 licence, Module 2 for the A1 licence, Module 1 for the A2 licence, Module 2 for the A2 licence, Module 1 for the unrestricted A licence, and Module 2 for the unrestricted A licence. And as for all the road tests, I've taken them in 4 different test locations: Leon the Solents, Isle of Wight Newport, Burton-on-Trent Derbyshire, and Colwick Nottinghamshire. So, step 1, the CBT. Obviously, everyone will have to do one at some point if you want to get a motorbike licence. I did mine when I was 16 to ride around on 50cc's, and for the Isle of Wight, that's fine. The safety issues that some may have with that sort of bike on where you can take it on dual carriageways didn't apply to my area. None of the like we have. But overall, the only consideration you should really have to one of them is whether you do it at 16 so you can use 50cc ped, and whether that's suitable for your area, or whether you should wait until you're 17 or older when you can have a 125, which is certainly more than capable of most road conditions. But regardless, obviously you need to do one at some point. And I will point out at this stage, all this advice is from someone coming up through the ranks via age-wise, not through ability-wise, shall we say. If you are of an older age where you don't slot into the conventional do this, then a couple of years later do this, then a couple of years later do this, this advice isn't going to be most suitable for you. So the next question you're going to have is, if you did your CBT at 16, do you either wait until you're 19 for a full licence, which will require a CBT renewal, or do you do what I did myself, which is get an A1 licence before the CBT runs out? This recommendation is more based on area than anything else. As I said before, I've used 4 different testing locations, and there is a difference between a small local one, such as the one in the Isle of Wight, versus one in the city! So for myself, where it was a relatively more simple area to do your test versus a city or so scape, I didn't do any sort of training or schooling before taking my tests. I did it purely myself, just going online, looking at the Module 1 manoeuvres, the Module 2 requirements, and taking myself out on the road and into car parks and teaching it that way. So for me, when I took my A1 test, cost-wise, it was about the same, if not a bit less, than retaking a CBT, assuming I passed first time. And that's where I suggest area is the biggest consideration there. Because if you have confidence in where you live, and you know the roads fairly well, it should be fine. However, if you're going somewhere where the test centre is not near you, or maybe you haven't lived in the area very long, maybe then it's best to do your CBT retake instead. Especially by that point, only having a year, maybe up to 2 years of experience on the road is nowhere near the same level you're going to be getting if you keep riding on the road for further more years. Regardless of which path you take, it won't be too long. It will feel like ages, as I full well know, it feels like ages, but it comes around quick enough once you're there. Once you're at the stage where you've turned 19 and you can take your A2 tests, you need to either take your A2 test within 2 years of the CBT, so that hasn't expired, so you don't need to redo that again, or you need to do it within 2 years of taking your theory test for your A1 licence, as that again only has a 2-year shelf date. Both paths, whichever you've taken, should end up being relatively similar. However, it is worth noting that before you decide whether you're going to go down the renewal CBT route or the A1 test route, it should be cheaper if you do the A1 test route, because when it comes to training for the A2, a training school, seeing that you've already got a full license and that you've already been through a set of tests, they will not require you to do as many hours to get to the test level for the A2 license, and therefore you'll save quite a chunk of money on training fees, for that test. If you go in there from the CBT perspective, generally companies will charge you the direct access training and test fees, which is probably about £700, depends on where you live, whereas I paid under £400 for everything. Even though I hadn't gone through training schools before to get my A1, having it probably saved me about £300, maybe even £400. So you know it goes again. If you've done the test already, on you go again with your A2 tests, and hopefully you come out with a nice pass grade that gives you another 2-year wait until you can upgrade to something unrestricted. Once again, those 2 years will feel like forever, but when you get round there, you'll look back at it fondly, as I do. By this point, I'm assuming you've got your A2 licence, and regardless of what path you've taken before then, all you've got to do is wait 2 years from passing your A2 licence to doing your A licence, as this time, if you wait 2 years, you don't have to redo a theory test or anything, you only need to do your Mod 1 and your Mod 2, whereas if you book it in to do as soon as you turn 21 and you haven't done 2 years on your A2 licence, you need to do another theory test. No point, you might as well wait the extra few weeks or month or whatever it is, so you've done 2 years on your A2 and you can just do it the quick way. And that is your path finished, and by that point you're bored of all these tests, you've done so many of them, but you are there now. Assuming you don't do anything stupid on the roads, then you have finished the path to motorcycling glory. So that's my educated opinions finished and delivered to yourselves. But now we move to personal opinions about the matter. First off, is this the right scheme to get people on bikes? All in all, no, but the whole thing isn't doom and gloom. It does have some benefits. Bear with. The first obvious benefit, and the main reason one would imagine for these licence laws, apart from whether you believe it's all automatic driving scheme or not, regardless, what it does do is prevent people who have just turned 17, 18, whatever, from doing a CBT, going for 2 hours riding experience, doing some tests, and then going out and buying an R1. Which is a good thing. Whilst the vast majority of us are clued up with how to ride bikes and how to be sensible on the road, shall we say, more than anything. Not having the small percentile of idiots out there, or restricting what they can do, definitely helps. And the other side benefit is, during your A2 years, you'll most likely you'll be able to get a proper bike, so-called, with good sized tyres and a good amount of engine in it. And during those 2 years, you will learn how to ride a bike round corners very well on something low powered, rather than something high powered where you can just use the power to get out of situations. Whilst at the moment I'm yet to enjoy what this bike can do on the road, being as I started riding it at the end of December, and we're currently at the beginning of February, and it's always been wet roads, and even today when it's dry, the ground is so cold, there is no tyre temperature out there to do anything. But the amount of confidence I have in cornering on this, rather than just using the throttle for everything, has been greatly inputted by doing 2 years on an A2 category bike, where you learn how to corner so much better. There's a reason why MotoGP stars start on 250cc singles nowadays in the Moto 3 class, and what ultimately gives you is, from an outside point of view, looking in towards you, rather than looking like a young person who's just gone aboard the fastest thing they can afford and have no idea how to ride it, you look like someone who knows what they're doing. And I can imagine the respect you gain from the motorcycling contingency because of that will feel great versus not getting any of that if you have no idea what you're doing. Another benefit is price saving, and ultimately, whilst you're going to be paying more for your licence fees, you are going to be saving in other departments. Tax, you're not going to be paying as much as that if you go straight to a big bike. Fuel, you're definitely going to be spending a lot more on bikes like this, where you get half the miles to the gallon of your A2 bike. So much fuel it uses, goodness me. And the big one, insurance. An insurance quote for someone like myself who's got 3 or 4 years of having a full licence is going to be dramatically less for a bike like this than someone who's coming in virgin with no experience, like massively different. The insurance jobs year after year are amazing. By the time you get to this stage, you can actually afford to insure bikes like this, and that's a good thing. And obviously, as I am now looking back on what I've done, I'm going to be looking back through rose-tinted spectacles, shall we say. It's not to that extent, but I am going to be looking back more positive than when I was at the beginning, when I was having to look at these laws and think, I can't do anything with bikes till I'm this age, or they don't let me do this. Once you're there, once you've achieved the out-and-out goal, which is your unrestricted licence and the bike that you want, whilst you're going to look back thinking, oh, it would have been obviously so much better if it was the old system where you could just do one test and then that was it. You don't look back in anger. 5 years looking back isn't a massive amount of time, considering that even before these new A1, A2 laws came in, you'd have still been about at least 3 years doing a year on a CVT and then 2 years in your restricted license. Not to mention that your restriction then was less than what it is now. So essentially 2 years extra isn't a massive amount of time when you look back. It will feel like the biggest amount of time ever when you're at the start of it, but at the end, but I guess time flies when you're having fun. As for the future, at this moment it's only talk about it. They haven't actually said they're going to do anything about it, but the proposals are to make it that as soon as you've done a test, you only have to go back and do what is essentially a CBT on a bigger bike. So spend, I think they're saying it's going to be 7 hours with an instructor on a big bike, and they can tick you off to say when you're safe. So it's not a test, it's just more training. And overall that should be a good thing, because what that will allow is riders with some sense, with some decency on the road, allow them to quickly progress without the fear of doing more tests. But at the same time, it's still going to test and cause the people who don't have the experience or don't have the confidence that someone else might, it's still going to make them do more training to get up to the right standard. And what it should give is people who are level-headed, they've got good road sense, shall we say, it will give them a cheaper option into upgrading your license, as you've only got to pay for essentially bike hire and training rather than bike hire, training and tests. So it will reduce the cost for them, but what it should still do is keep people who really should have a bit more time before they jump on a high-powered bike. It should still make them go through more training, but overall this new scheme should be helping the right people. Because lucky enough I can say this now, because I've done all the tests, I'd never failed one of them, and personally once I'd done the first two, the only difference was the location I was in. There was no difference in the way I took the tests, the manner of going about it. Only difference really was how much that does. The training school I used, for their A2 test they use MT-07, and for their unrestricted A test they use MT-07s. The difference being a throttle stop, but on your test you're not going to be using your throttle anywhere near to the stop. So what you end up doing is doing 2 pairs of tests where both the requirements are pretty much exactly the same. So these new regulations do make sense, and whilst it doesn't make it easier to get your license, it should help with cost and practicality, shall we say, which ultimately should benefit the ones who should be on the road without making an easy path for the pillocks who shouldn't. Worth pointing out, the sort of rider that makes you a pillock is going 100 miles an hour through a 30, not going 70 miles an hour in a 60. And there we have it. My views as to what you should do regarding the current system and regarding the future system. Let's see what happens. But for now, you've got my 2 cents. If you do have any further queries or you want to know more about how I've gone about things, do leave a comment below. I will see every one of them and reply to all the ones with the best knowledge I can. But overall, that's everything covered regarding that. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.